Good morning, everybody. Don't worry, we're live in 1 second. I'm just just trying to work out what these little XP things are that are by the side of everybody's name. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is Tuesday, the 1st of July. The 1st of July. We are into the second half of 2025, and to be honest, it's gone a little bit too quickly for my liking. We've got a busy show today, but before we even get into the show, there is something I want to talk about. And that is, I go through all the news. I go through about 50, 60, 70 article headlines a night. I go through hundreds and hundreds of tweets, and I kind of give you the vibe that I get from time to time. Sometimes I'll tell you it's boring. Sometimes I'll tell you it's Bitcoin ETFs all the time. Sometimes I'll tell you there is nothing going on. Everybody in the media and on X is excited. And I don't know why. Okay? Let me put that off, actually, because I'm starting to see a copy of myself in the background. So everybody is excited. And this has happened overnight. This has happened overnight. In the space of maybe 2 days, we've gone from a fairly sluggish-looking set of news articles to some really positive things that we're going to talk about. We've got things to talk about today which are a bit different as well. We're obviously going to talk about Bitcoin. I'm going to show you the Bitcoin chart. We're going to talk a little bit about this new Solana ETF, which isn't an ETF, but is an ETF. We're going to talk a bit about Robinhood's Layer 2. Massive news that Robinhood have launched a Layer 2 on Arbitrum. I said yesterday I preferred Optimism because things build on Optimism and use the OP stack. And I said Arbitrum is more of a DeFi platform. Well, that is, of course, the case. Robinhood are going to be using them. We're going to look at Ripple and their sidechain. We're also, and this is the headline of the day, shake it off. You'll have to wait and see. We're then going to look at Buy Circle. Okay, that doesn't mean I'm half square, half triangle. That is something to do with the price of Circle. We're also going to look at 3 memes at the end, and that should take us to an hour with, of course, some X-Files, and we have a lot of X-Files to get through at the minute. And look at, what are these little tiny XP chart things? I click on them, and I can see Simon, Mags, Manjeet. These are the top fans, apparently. I've no idea what any of that is. I need to go and look it up. That's why I was late. I was trying to look it up. But I don't know what they are. So good morning, Hidden Agendas. Good morning, Mags. Good morning, Tariq. Good morning, Simon, Manjeet. I can tell you all the exciting news now before we start the show. So we've got 3 new partners for the month of July. And they are Orbi Network. We're going to be making videos about Orbi Network for the month of July. They want some videos explaining how their yield works, how you can borrow against your assets. You can borrow against your assets for 0%. We're going to talk about kind of a beginner's guide to Orbi and then maybe do some more complex things about Orbi. We've obviously got Corgi AI. We're going to kick that off tomorrow night with a quiz. But we're going to be doing a lot more videos on Corgi over the course of July. Now, these are only for July. So in August, when we're no longer making videos about Corgi and Orbi, let's not go into panic and say everyone's left Crypto Warehouse. We've only done it for a month. They probably don't need us for more than a month, in all honesty, because Corgi are running a 2-week campaign. That's 2 of them. And the third one, which I can announce, is that starting from the 1st of July, we will be working with BC Game. BC Game is a gaming platform. They do sports, they do poker, they do all kinds of things. And we're going to be working with them for July. So 3 partners on top of WolfSwap and Maple Finance and Mew. 3 partners for the month of July. That's the news I couldn't tell you yesterday because we don't start until today. Simon just had a scammer call me and said they were TikTok. Do you know, we live in a very small place here and we get phone calls like this all the time. And we get people with different types of accents calling and saying that they are Joseph Brown, and clearly they've never met anyone called Joseph or Brown. So we get a lot of that as well. So that's pretty much it. We suppose we should really get into the show. and talk about it. Now, as I said, we've got a lot to get through. We are going to look at some charts today as well. We are going to look at I think we're looking at the Bitcoin chart, and we are looking at, I thought we were going to look at the Solana chart. Yes, we are. So we'll look at the Bitcoin and the Solana charts, see where we are with them. Is this coming up now? Perfect. Absolutely, it is. Anyway, I will find out by tomorrow why you are getting XP for your comments. I don't know what it means. I hope it means that they're not going to start taking even more money off me and giving it out willy-nilly to the likes of Tariq. I don't know. Bitcoin coming in at just under 107,000. We haven't really moved, have we? Ethereum still below 2,500. XRP did have a little bit of excitement yesterday. But again, look at the number, 220. I tell you these numbers because they are the safe places for these coins. 220 is a safe place for XRP. 150 is a safe place for Solana. If we go down to Cardano, 60 cents is a safe place for Cardano. Nothing's changed since yesterday. Not going to look at that today. We'll look at the gainers and the losers. I think there's a few up. Algorand is up. I know they've launched, or some exchanges have launched Algorand staking, on-chain staking. That may have had something to do with the price action. There's also the news about there's loads of ETFs floating around. XRP is obviously up a little bit. Monero, I mean, really not many gainers today, which isn't a bad thing, really. Arbitrum is down 10%. Who knows? SPX is down to 116. Maple, again, I hope you watched or you saw my tweet yesterday. I gave you very specific price targets for getting into Maple. Maple was never going to go up in a straight line. It was always going to retrace because it was overbought, and it's come so far away from its bull market support band. It's 2 or 3 times the price it should be. However, I think if you can get in around about 43 to 46 cents, I think that's a really good price to get into Maple. Could it go lower? Absolutely. If the market tanks, you could see 30 odd cents Maple, but that's not likely to happen. They've got more and more announcements coming out on the way. I know they've made a few changes. I think it's still a dead chain. I've got no like or consideration. They are sponsoring a very big podcast in America. Again, sponsoring a podcast that talks to crypto professionals is not going to drive attention to your chain, in my opinion. OP is down. Virtuals is down. Celestia is down. Celestia's going to break $1. That is absolutely shocking. Aerodrome at 78 cents is not bad. Anyway, let's move on. We haven't got time for a lot of this today because we've got a lot of X-Files. There's a lot of news, and some of it is mega bullish. Some of it isn't mega bullish, and some of the things I just want to comment on because I think you need to see both sides of things. That's just the way I am. And a lot of the times I put things up that I don't necessarily agree with, but isn't that the point of having an open debate? President Trump just issued a handwritten note to Chairman Powell. The note calls Powell too late and shows how US rates should be here, pointing at other countries' rates. Trump said we should be paying 1% interest or better. And again, now, this is like your sick note that you took into school. Little Johnny wasn't well yesterday. He had a bit of a temperature and he threw up. He had his ham sandwich last night and he was sick. Signed, Mrs. Donald Trump's mum. Again, I don't know what to make of that. I think clearly Trump wants something that he isn't going to get. Now, Powell, I said Powell was speaking yesterday. He's not speaking yesterday. I believe he's speaking today. So I was wrong on that. I thought he was going to speak yesterday afternoon, but it's this afternoon. I don't know what they've got an aversion to, speaking on Mondays. Now, again, this is getting towards silly seasons, okay? Now, this gentleman or this investment company, they have got Edelman Financial Engines. They have recommended a 40% crypto allocation for aggressive investors, 10% for conservative. Owning crypto is no longer a speculative position. Failing to do so is, look at these takeaways. We don't care about the takeaways. Let me explain something. I do not believe that anybody should have 40% of their net worth in crypto. There is, unless you're very rich, and if you've got a house with a mortgage, if you've got credit card debt, if you've got lots of things and you can't put food on the table, 40% of your money should not be in crypto. Your crypto money should be what you can afford to put to one side. And that might sound terrible. Now, just to give you an idea, I think crypto makes up about 10 to 15% of my net worth. And I am super bullish on Bitcoin. Tomorrow, I could go out and buy, for argument's sake, 10 Bitcoin. And yes, I'd have a lot more money. But that doesn't take into account risk management. And one of the things that I totally disagree with everybody about is, if you don't own your house and you have loans and you have mortgages and you have debt, you need to take that into consideration when you are investing in crypto. Of course, Bitcoin is going to outstrip your loans and your assets. Of course it is. But you also have a responsibility to look after your family. And I don't believe 40% is anywhere near where you should be. 20% at most. Now, if you don't own a house, you live at home with your parents and you've got $10,000, by all means, put $6,000 or $7,000 into Bitcoin. I totally agree. But if you're a family man or woman and you've got kids to look after and you want to save for their future, that's what Bitcoin and crypto, especially Bitcoin, is about. But I think it's totally irresponsible to suggest having 40% of your portfolio in crypto. I do not believe that is the answer at all. I just think that's the wrong take, personally, because if he said 40% Bitcoin, I could probably argue the case. I wouldn't argue the case that 40% of your portfolio should be Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Cardano, because you don't know where they're going to go. Now then, another week goes by, another update on Maple Finance. We started 6 months ago, 5 months ago with Maple Finance, and we didn't have this many updates. So we didn't talk about them very much, and we would try and find something to talk about on a Friday just to include them in the show. And it's getting to the point now where they're becoming really noisy, and I can't miss some of these things out. At the moment, they would deal with institutions, and we're talking like 25 Bitcoin, $5 million or $10 million minimum loan, those kind of things. So they're big players. But you can now use Bitcoin, Marinade Sol, MSOL as collateral. You can use, Wrapped ETH as collateral. You can use XRP, Bitcoin. They've got an entire panel. Hype, we covered Hype the other day. Hype was another one. And they are becoming very, very noisy. And I'm not going to not include them, because even if we weren't partnered with them, I'd still include this type of stuff. Again, Syrup is going to be added to Coinbase. What's it called? Advanced. I think they used to call it Coinbase Pro. Keep changing the names of things. Doesn't mean anything. Right, let's move on. And this is about, as far as I'm aware, again, Ethereum is not going to be the next Bitcoin. Okay? I'm not saying these are top signals, okay, because they're clearly not. When you've got Rich Dad Poor Dad telling you that Bitcoin is going to go to $11 trillion, he says that all the time. I don't like seeing these types of statements because it's going to lead you to getting wrecked. There is never going to be the next Bitcoin in my lifetime. Okay? There is never going to be the next Bitcoin. It is a $2 trillion asset class. Now, I did listen to what he had to say, and it wasn't quite as black and white as I'm making out. But don't let anybody tell you that X is going to be the next Y, because that is the number one thing that scammers and pump and dumpers try and do. So they will say, Vexo coin is the next Solana. Or they will say, coffee is going to be the next Syrup. Okay? No, they're not. They're never going to be that. They're using it to promote their project by associating it with a better project. Now, Ethereum is going to do incredibly well. I've listened to a lot of what Vitalik has had to say in the last couple of days, and you know what? Fair play to Vitalik. He's come out of his box, all soy guns blazing, with his Beyond Beef burger thing sticking out of his back pocket, and he said some really, really good things. He has said Ethereum is too complicated for people to use, and we need to make it easy. If we don't make it easy, people aren't going to use it. Big tick. And we need to make it secure. We need to focus on privacy. Big tick number 2. Still don't think he should be the head honcho at Ethereum, the face of Ethereum, but there we go. You can't have everything. He's saying the right things. And it's never going to be the next Bitcoin. There is never going to be a next Bitcoin. There's never going to be the next Ethereum. They're not, it's not going to happen. And if it does, it's going to take a seismic change for it to happen. Now then, I've seen a lot of twos and fro's about this. X Stocks is now partnering with a couple of exchanges, which we're not going to mention the names of. But down here, you will see some of the usual suspects. Raydium, Jupiter, Camino, Solana, obviously. Now, I've seen a lot of people crying on X about this. It's not a real coin. It's not the real stock. It's splitting liquidity. It's causing all of this pain. Nobody cares. Disruptive technology does not necessarily mean it's going to be perfect on day one. I don't care what they say, okay? I don't care about split liquidity. I don't give a flying monkeys what they are saying, okay? It's not perfect. But so Solana's not perfect. Bitcoin is not perfect. Nothing in crypto at this moment in time is perfect. Nothing in the world is perfect. But they have to be the ones that tell you that going on a train, your internal organs will explode. Using a telephone is going to make your brain fall out of your ear. Okay, using the internet is going to lead to taking hard substances. Okay, I don't care. I don't care. It's going to work. And if it doesn't work perfectly now, I don't care. And you shouldn't care. Now, if you want to go and buy X Tesla today with Bitcoin, you can go to Jupiter. Many other DEXs and SEXs are available. You can go to Jupiter and you can buy X Tesla with Bitcoin on the Solana blockchain. Okay? What do we talk about all the time? Adoption, regulation, and interoperability. Interoperability. Making everything one great big mesh, just like the internet works. You are watching me in a different part of the world because you're certainly not sitting next to me in here. And you are going across multiple different companies on multiple different networks in different parts of the world, different types of cables, but you're all using the same protocols to connect. And that's just how Web3 is going to be in the future. Okay? This is the future today. You can go and buy stocks today on Solana or any other of these exchanges. It's what's going to happen. There's loads of other things I could include in here, which I'm not going to because it's too... Again, I don't want to take the entire stream up by just ranting about a couple of sentences. But just have a look at it. It's happening in front of your very eyes. Crypto is nowhere then everywhere all at once. Now, this is the biggest pile of horse manure I have ever read. They tried to amend the One Big Beautiful Bill to include a section that stopped elected officials from promoting or profiting off crypto tokens they have a financial stake in. Okay, that is what he tried to do. Now, we sat here and we had a go at that old lady. The old lady who was the best trader in the world, okay? And we were saying this is terrible. You shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks, okay? You shouldn't be allowed to trade crypto either. Now, the sale of crypto coins by any of us for the financial benefit is corrupting our responsibility to govern by and for the people. 100% agree. 100% agree. Cynthia Lummis, who we quite like here because she's the woman in charge of the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, okay, opposed the amendment, saying would, now again, I don't know if I'm going to be able to read this, inflict serious harm on American innovation and competitiveness and harm the government's ability to understand and regulate digital assets effectively. That is her manure answer to why she can't make millions and millions of dollars out of crypto. None of it makes sense. This makes sense. This is I could have come up with a better reason than that. I could have had a far better reason for why I should be allowed to invest into crypto. Number one, allow them to buy a government fund. So you want to buy $100,000. You put your $100,000 as a senator into this fund, and you're allowed to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, whatever else it might be. And that fund is completely separate from you or your government. And it just allows you to have skin in the game. Same with the stock market. You should be allowed to buy the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones. You should be allowed to buy them, okay? Because your vested interest is helping the S&P 500 grow. You should be allowed to buy a portfolio of crypto stocks to help crypto grow. What you shouldn't be allowed to do, I'm just saying hypothetically here, let's say that Cynthia Lummis was given $10 million by SUI to win her state, okay? And she gets in, and then she puts forward an amendment to the OBBB that adds SUI to the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. That's a conflict of interest. Absolutely, every day of the week, conflict of interest. And by blocking this, by not allowing this to be added, they, on both sides, are allowing these conflicts of interests to exist. And it is shameful, okay? This is utterly shameful, what Cynthia Lummis has said. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. They are supposed to be better than this, and they are clearly not. Should we move on? Good morning, KB. Good morning, Danny. I hope you are both well today. Why an Lee said the wrong word then. An RIA founder is suggesting a 10 to 40% crypto allocations. This is the follow-up to what we were just talking about. And there is the gentleman. I don't know what it is with facial hair and going bald. I don't know what it is, but I don't come out with outlandish statements at all. So he basically talks down here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So Endelman in the 80s started the Financial Engine, a registered... These pop-ups will be the death of me. He's now recommended a 10% allocation for conservative investors. That should go up to 25 and 40% for those with moderate or aggressive risk appetites. Now, if you've ever had a stocks and shares portfolio, what they normally do is say 60% stocks, 40% bonds for a balanced conservative approach. So 60% goes into actual companies or funds of companies in the stock market, and 40% you have a little bit of cash, maybe you'll have some gold, and you'll have some bonds that earn 1% a year. You ask the question, why are we investing in things that do 1% a year? And they will say risk management, because if the stock market crashes, you've still got this pile of bonds over here. Okay, that's the argument, traditional argument, and that's kind of like going in the bin now a little bit. 10% allocation in crypto for conservative investors. You've always been told to buy 5% in gold. And that's gone in the bin. It used to be 3% and 5% interchangeable. Now that's kind of gone. And everyone is moving their allocations from gold to crypto. You're swapping a very stable commodity in gold for Bitcoin. And that is, it's not necessarily the way I would go about it. I would still have an allocation in gold, and I would also have an allocation in crypto. So the 60-40 stock-based allocation model is dead. This is due to unprecedented rate of longevity brought about by remarkable advance in exponential tech. Again, if you'd have bought into Apple, Google, or Alphabet, if you'd have bought into Facebook, Meta, if you'd have bought into Tesla, Apple, you know which ones they are, then you'd have outperformed absolutely everything that's ever happened in the stock market. And he is recommending that crypto is something you need to add. Now, think about this. $3 trillion is the asset class. Gold is $22 trillion. But it's not a bad... we were talking about Bitcoin when the entire crypto market was 800 billion, sorry. So it's come an awful long way. It's on a 4x. Now it is a time to add it to your portfolio. Now, again, I agree with that. There is no logic to omitting an asset that's outperformed all of everything else for 12 of the last 15 years. I also totally agree with that. That is the right thing to do. Where I draw the line is having 40% of your investment in any particular asset class, whether it be crypto or gold or stocks or anything like that, or individual stocks. Now, Michael Saylor will turn around and say, if you believe that Bitcoin is the only one, why do you hold anything else? That's what a Bitcoin maxi would say. If you ask an Ethereum maxi, they'll say, go 100% Ethereum. Solana is the same, but they're maxis, and they are very cult-ish. You need to have a balanced portfolio, and that just doesn't apply in crypto. It also applies in stocks and shares. You shouldn't have 100% in anything unless you're really, really invested into something like Tesla and you believe Tesla is the future and you want to go all in on Tesla. It's disruptive technology. It probably will do a 50x or 20x from here. Fine. Go and buy Tesla. If you believe that Apple have invented a new AI tricorder device that acts as a phone and a health device that's going to revolutionize absolutely everything about the healthcare industry, and you think Apple is going to go to a $50 trillion asset, fine, okay? But for the rest of us, you have to diversify. And I think 10% is absolutely spot on. Now then, we're going to have a look at this Bitcoin chart. Again, things don't really happen an awful lot, but I'm going to show you one bullish thing, and then I'm going to tell you one bearish thing. And I'm not Mr. TA, as we all know, but the TA Meister himself is streaming tonight. If you want to tune in and watch the Oracle, he will be streaming, I believe, at 9 o'clock. Now, let's wait for this to load. They did something to TradingView maybe not 3 weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, and it's all gone to pot. Now, I showed you this last week. We came up, we wiggled around, and we've done this. Okay, so my negative view is that we come down to 97,000. That's my negative view. The bullish view, and this is going to mess the chart up for a second. If we go to the 1 month chart, we had, and I told you about this on, I think I might have told you about this yesterday. Okay, this is the highest monthly close of Bitcoin ever. Look, we've never closed a month at this level. $107,240, the highest monthly close ever. Bullish. Be very careful how I say that word. This, not so bullish. My pink Bob Ross line is, I think, what we're going to do. And that is, until we break out, we're going to follow the pattern. And maybe this time, if we are going to break out, maybe we don't come to here. Maybe we come to here. Okay? And maybe we come down. This is about 104,000. It's not a long way away to get to that kind of midpointy area. Maybe we come to 104 before we go up. And as I have said for weeks now, I think we need an all-time high in the next 2 weeks. I actually said by the end of June, and we are now in July. But I was 2 weeks out last time. So let's say I'm 2 weeks out again. Let's say by the 14th of July, I think we need to have broken above about 110,000. Then I think we need to take out this line here, which of course is the all-time high. And if we zoom down, that's the reason I want to take out the all-time high. And that's my price target for Bitcoin this cycle, which I told you about last week. I'm going to keep telling you about for the new people in the room. 111,570-ish is my all-time high target for this year. I set that 2 years ago based on diminishing returns before we had ETFs, before we had Donald Trump, before any of this other stuff happened, that was my target. And I believe we got to ish 111,700, something like that. That's where we got to. And I've got itchy feet, and I want it broken, and I want to break it tomorrow. You know what? If we do this, happy. If we do this and absolutely tank, great. Just break that number. Just do me a favor, Bitcoin, okay? Do me a favor. Go to 115,000, okay? I know there's people talking for 135,000. I know there's people talking for 125,000. But just get us to 114, 115,000 and close and shut this man up, okay? I'll shave, okay, if we do that. That's the plan for Bitcoin. So upside, we've had the highest close of Bitcoin in its history, 107.2. Fantastic. Highest ever close. Bearish, we could come down to 104. I can't see us going down to 100,000, but maybe Chairman Powell comes out today and says we're not cutting rates this year. Who knows what he's going to say? It's now attrition between Powell and Trump. Who's going to come out on top? I don't know. I know the Oracle was calling for downside, and we didn't get downside, did we? We didn't get any downside at all. Who knows? Right then, let's move on. Now this should be really, really bullish. I should be jumping up and down here and telling you that we're going to go to the moon and Solana's going to go over $200, which I've been saying. But it's not quite how it looks. It's not quite what we wanted. And it's going live tomorrow. Okay? So Solana goes vertical after ETF approval and Robinhood staking. The Rex Osprey Solana ETF with staking is expected to begin trading on Wednesday. We rallied above 160, causing an awful lot in short liquidations. Staking ETF may also appear for ETH, opening the door to on-chain. So Solana market's price went vertical, breaking above 160. On news of an imminent launch of this ETF with staking, Robinhood gave an additional boost to Sol after bringing back staking for passive income, now accessible for US-based clients. I mean, that's a big one for me. We sat here a year ago, maybe longer, maybe 2 years ago. We sat here and said Robinhood has just got rid of Cardano and XRP and Solana, and the price dumped. I don't know what the price of Solana was at the time that happened, but I remember that clearly. And I remember thinking the SEC under Gary Gensler named 5 tokens, and Robinhood just immediately unlisted them. And that was at a time where it was a case of, well, America's just been strangled. These aren't bad projects. These aren't pump and dumps. These are the legitimate projects now being kicked off, legitimate regulated businesses. This is not a good place for us to be. While the ETF launch was predicted to happen this week by Bloomberg, James Seyffart, the official confirmation helped the rumor, confirmed a first ever staked crypto ETF in the USA. Now, it's designed to track the performance of Solana, generating yield through on-chain staking, Sol exposure, and staking rewards. But this isn't. I don't believe this is a spot ETF. Because I've read about it. I don't think it's a spot ETF. Let's have a look. There we go. I thought it was 11 million. It wasn't 11 billion. I mean, we're not going to talk anymore about the Robinhood thing because we are going to talk about that in a minute anyway. Right, so it was returned for another revision with the regulators expected to process for other ETFs. The new investment vehicle is the first of its kind in the US market. The approval odds are at 95%. Again, I don't think this is a BlackRock Bitcoin ETF or a BlackRock Ethereum ETF. I think this is good, but I don't quite think this is what we wanted. I think this doesn't track one for one. So this isn't $1 of Solana for every dollar you buy in it. And I did find the breakdown, and I just don't think this is what we want. I think this is kind of like a backdoor. We're going to get it through. and it's going to have some staking and you're all going to be happy. I think it's kind of like a bit of a mishmash. I would have preferred all 9 of the OG ETF holders to have been given Solana staking ETF status from today. That's what I would have liked. But we don't always get what we like, do we? Right then, Solana is fighting in a good place. Yes, we're in this downward channel, but this news is bringing the war to the bull market support band. Again, we got above, we couldn't hold it. We came down, we got above, we couldn't hold it. We got resistance, we came to the bottom of the channel, we wiggled about in the middle, we broke out, and now we're sitting at, if I zoom in, we're sitting in, the bull market support band. Top of this is 157, which we wicked above yesterday to 160. The bottom of this is coming in at 149. We're at 148.60. So this is potentially something we want to see a bounce of and then up. If, however, we look at this type of action and this type of action, then we are just going to come straight back down. So the bottom of this channel, if we keep going down, is probably about I think it's about 122, something like that. And again, I'm not super bearish. 124, I think, is the bottom of that range, 125. I'm not super bearish, but you look at that channel and then you look at the Bitcoin channel and you think, well, they kind of look similar. And Bitcoin doesn't look like it's going up at the minute. Bitcoin doesn't look like it's going up at the minute. It's found some resistance that it needed to break and it didn't. It's come back down again. Maybe we're waiting on some Powell news. Maybe it's going to be a combination of different things to give us the next leg up. But for me, I'm expecting a little bit of down action. Maybe 104 for Bitcoin. Maybe 135, 130 for Solana until something changes. And again, we don't have a crystal ball. Chairman Powell could come out today. Jerome, I should call him. He's not my chairman. Jerome Powell could come out today and say, you know what, guys? Let's moon it, baby. Maybe he puts his cap on backwards, starts to talk about Riz and all of these other words that kids talk about these days that I don't know what they're saying. And maybe he just drops the mic at the end and walks off and screams 1% baby. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Or, more likely, he's going to come out and he's going to be a miserable. He is like the Grinch. He's going to come out and he's going to be the Grinch. And he's going to water on all of our bonfires. And he's going to say, we may not cut. We may not hold. We don't know yet. It doesn't look good. Donald Trump keeps messing us around, and we're just not going to move until he stops. Then Donald Trump's going to come out and call him a name, and then it's just going to kick off, and we're just going to go sideways. That's more likely, I think. Now, this is super exciting. Robinhood has launched a layer 2 with Arbitrum. It's offering tokenized US stocks and ETFs on the Arbitrum blockchain for users in Europe. Again, there's a lovely little Robin Hood who looks like Robin Hood, firing his layer 2 into a tree, I'd imagine. So it's pushed into real-world assets with this layer 2 on Arbitrum. Built on Arbitrum, the new Layer 2 network will enable the issuance of over 200 US stock and exchange-traded fund ETF tokens, giving European investors access to US assets, it announced on Monday. The stock tokens will have zero commissions and be available for trading 24/7, 5 days a week. Fantastic. Now, this is great news. Don't need the advertisement. The company also announced the launch of perps in the EU, giving eligible traders access to derivatives with up to 3x leverage. These trades will be routed through Bitstamp, another exchange which we shouldn't mention the name of. Other exchanges are far better if they are black and yellow. Robinhood isn't the first exchange to offer tokenized shares in Europe. Gemini also began offering the tokenized version of Strategy stock. Now, again, I believe, from what I remember, it went up an awful lot. The actual token itself went up an awful lot yesterday. The share, I think, went up, was it 8% yesterday, which is quite a lot for a company of that size. Now, again, this is just another example of what I've been talking about for a very long time. I mentioned it on Friday as well. This isn't new money coming to crypto. This is money that already exists in the real world that's been tokenized. Whether it be stocks, whether it be real world assets, paintings, cars, whatever it might be, they already exist, and that value is already in the outside. And what this is going to do is bring that outside in and bring it online. So when we talk about the explosion of RWA, it isn't really an explosion. It's just bringing the assets online. And along the way, the likes of Ondo, the likes of Maple, even Mantra, they're all going to grow in value along the way because they're going to be the conduits between the real world and Web3, the spirit world. Okay? So this is just another really good idea. The question's going to be, are we going to get to the point where we have 100 different mini exchanges all knocking around in Web3, all doing stock trading, where Robinhood might have R Tesla, you might have X Tesla on Solana, you might have B Tesla on the Bitcoin chain, or E Tesla on the Ethereum chain. That's when you might need, pooled liquidity. That's maybe where the likes of Chainlink get involved, but we'll get to that problem and then we'll assess that problem at the time. If we end up with another 10 or 20 or 30 versions of this in the next 6 to 12 months, fine. It's not going to be the end of the world. The American stock market is trillions. It's not going to be a problem. What this does, though, is this opens up that walled garden of what rich people have been able to do for decades. And they open it up to people that don't have a lot of money. And what I mean by that is, let's say, and I'm going to pick on somebody in chat, let's say that Tariq lives in a country where Tariq can't get access to stocks and shares in America because Tariq doesn't have $10 million in his account. Or Tariq has to go through a set of very difficult questions, sets to get to the point where he can invest. All of that's in the bin. If Tariq can get to Jupiter today, Tariq can go and buy Tesla or whatever it might be. And as long as it's not illegal, he can do it. As long as it's not breaking the law, of course he can do it. So it's removing the wall from the walled garden in some respects. And that's what a lot of this is about. It's not necessarily about reinventing the world. It's about removing friction from the world so the world can get access to what the rich people have had access to for the last 40 years. So all of these things are a good thing. The Robin Hoods of this world, the Binances of this world, the Revoluts of this world, they're all good. Now, of course, they're making money along the way, but that's the point. That's the point of them. They want to make money. But you've never been able to buy Tesla because it's been too difficult. Go back 15 years and try and buy Microsoft stock. It was impossible. Okay? It was really, really difficult. You couldn't do it. And then IG came online and a few others came online, and they had these little mobile things that kind of existed about 6 or 7 years ago where you could trade on your mobile phone. And that was like the first step. But even then, you needed a minimum balance on IG, or if you didn't trade so many times a month, they charged you, and it was not that cheap. Now, look where we are. Go to Jupiter today, use any coin from any chain, pretty much, on Jupiter, buy Tesla. That's how far we've come in such a short space of time. It's a net benefit to the world, not just to crypto. Now, Ripple has debuted its EVM sidechain to bring Ethereum apps to the XRP ecosystem. This is something that's going to need to play out over a long period of time. XRP needs to plug itself into Ethereum, Solana, and Cardano, and of course Bitcoin via Cardano or Solana or Ethereum, whichever gets there first. XRP is going to be potentially a very good on and off ramp to crypto for institutions. And getting into Ethereum is logical because that's where the likes of BlackRock are, of course. Getting into Ethereum is logical, probably the first step that they should look at, followed by Solana, followed by Cardano. Now, 1,000 transactions a second, by the way, isn't actually that many, but by the by. Ripple has launched the XRPL EVM sidechain mainnet, enabling Ethereum-based applications to run the XRP ledger with cross-chain connectivity through Axelar, an interoperability protocol that links 80 blockchains. In a Monday post, Ripple said the upgrade allows developers to use familiar tools like Solidity and MetaMask to build or migrate apps to the XRP ledger. These apps can now access the on-chain liquidity. Now, I've got a massive problem with Phantom. Phantom is 10 times the app that MetaMask will ever be, and it is forever taking its sweet time to add chains to Phantom. MetaMask, you can pretty much add your own chain to it. You can just go and add a chain, and it's really, really simple. Phantom is just incredibly slow. I want to do things on certain chains. I can't do it through Phantom, and I don't like MetaMask. So I've got to use Trust or something like that, or a chain-specific wallet, which I absolutely detest. MetaMask, Phantom, sorry, they need to sort themselves out. David Schwartz said the launch is the beginning of a larger plan to integrate XRP with more networks. We know this. Now, again, we like this. In About a Boy, Hugh Grant sits there and says the infamous line, "No man is an island," which of course he stole. Of course, that was in a different time when there weren't TVs. No man is an island, and no chain is an island. And for chains to succeed, they need to have this interoperability. And the top chains, forget everybody else for a minute, the top chains, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, XRP, even BNB and Bitcoin, they all need to have interoperability. And those 6 chains, maybe 8, maybe it ends up at 8 or 9, they are going to dominate. They're going to have all of the eyes on. They're going to have all of the apps connected. They're going to be involved. And when I'm talking about Ethereum, I'm talking about layer 2s as well. You know, the Arbitrums, Optimisms, the Polygons, they're all going to be involved. And then you're going to have other chains. You're going to have other projects that sit alongside those major chains. You're going to have the likes of Chainlink. You're going to have the likes of Pyth, not Pyth, Pyth. You're going to have the likes of the DEXs still existing. Of course, they're going to exist for a certain number of people. But then you're going to see an awful lot of dying going on. You're going to see an awful lot of chains that just shouldn't have ever been built. Somebody built it to get a load of money in. That money's been spent. They've gone. Okay? They'll appear a year later working for somebody else. That's just how it's going to work. There'll be a lot of dead chains knocking around. And I don't think they'll just die. I think they'll become zombie chains until literally the hosting fees run out, and then they'll be gone forever. So back the biggest, fastest, strongest horses in this race, and they are the ones that are going to be partnering with each other. Look at Charles. He's changed his tune. Charles detested Solana, detested XRP. He goes to the White House, meets the Orange Man, and comes out and says, you know what, guys, we all need to work together. I've got my guitar. Me and Brad and Anatoly are going to sit down on Forest Fire, and we're going to sing Kumbaya, and we're going to all merge everything together, and we're going to have our own little place, our own little fiefdom in Web3. And that's what I think happened. I think Donald Trump said, STFU, get on with it, stop fighting each other, build in America, and I'm going to help you. That's what I think happened at that meeting, because they all walked out different people. It's like the body snatchers. They walked in, and then they came out as different people. So this is brilliant news, and if you think Ripple is dead, I think you need to look at their bank balance and realise that they are not going to go anywhere. They've just got to get around the fact that they've annoyed Trump. That's their biggest issue at the minute. But again, sidechain, connecting to Ethereum, getting the apps onto XRP, fantastic. MetaMask integration, want Phantom integration. I just want a wallet that allows me to move my funds from A to B and not have to mess around. I have been trying to find a way to get Bitcoin into a yield-bearing position to make a video to show you guys. And you will not believe how hard that is at this moment in time. It's almost impossible. I could make a video that lasts 20 seconds. Send your money to Binance, stick 0.01 Bitcoin in here, earn Solve tokens. Okay? That doesn't solve the problem. Because if you've got 0.1 Bitcoin, you don't get any interest on the 0.09. It's impossible. It's not there yet, but we have to have patience. Now, this is the headline of the day. Shake it off. Okay? Now, I thought this was a pump and dump. I thought this was an absolute scam. I thought it was a Mickey take. It's everywhere, and I'm going to cover it. I know nothing about it. It has that absolutely horrific word in the title, which is a pre-sale. for blockchain-backed real-world asset investments. Okay. So it's the world's first Ethereum-based token powered by AI-driven property intelligence that allows real-world assets ownership. Today opens it for its limited sale. Okay, now, I know nothing about this. Okay, my word of advice is don't buy it. Don't buy this token today. Don't do a pre-sale. Don't think you're going to put $5 or $10 in and you're going to make $500. Don't do it. I'm telling you, because of the potential of the project, not to buy the coin. I'm not going to buy this coin. I have nothing to do with them. I just saw literally 15 articles all about it yesterday, so I thought I'm going to have to include it. There's lots of things I don't include that I should have included in hindsight. So from now on, I might put the odd risky one in there, just to give you an idea. So it's an AI Web3 platform. It's launching a marketplace for fractional ownership of luxury real estate and other high-value assets, aims to facilitate access to tokenized real-world assets through blockchain infrastructure. We're removing wealth barriers and opening access to premium markets. Luxury ownership is no longer reserved for the top 1%. It's an investment opportunity for the 99%. With a minimum entry point of $100, well, there you go. That throws you $10 in the bin. They can now invest in high-end properties, collect vehicles, fine arts, and more, all backed by real assets and blockchain automation. Now, in a former life, I ran a high net worth individual website. And it was in a former life. It was just before COVID. In fact, COVID put an end to that project. And what we did was we had properties, cars, aeroplanes. We had everything, paintings on this platform. And there is another one called James's Place or something like that, based in the Isle of Man, does the same thing. There's a couple of them knocking around. And this is big money. This is big money for the rich people. Buying and selling yachts, buying and selling properties, fine art, stuff like that. It's a big business. Now, is this going to work? I have no idea. I have no idea if it's going to work. Do I know if it's a scam? I've got no idea if it's a scam. But the concept can work. That's why I like this. Because if they team up with somebody like James's Place or James's whatever it's called, then it will work. But we'll have to see. I have included, like I said, I've included it simply because it's everywhere at the minute. Now, maybe they have a massive marketing budget and they've paid everybody to talk about them. Maybe that's the case. And maybe it is a pump and dump. Maybe it goes to 500 million, $1 billion in value, and they just suck all the liquidity out and run off with $100 million, $50 million, whatever it might be. That could very well be the case. I don't know. Now, this is another one I'm trying to keep an eye on as well, and this is the Circle price. Circle was something I've talked to you about, and I said I think you should get in on Circle. Not financial advice, do your own research, all that kind of nonsense. And the reason is, I think long-term, Circle has a really good value proposition in terms of adding value to itself. The more Circle that's printed, the more money they make. So if we see another $100 billion worth of stable coins coming into the market, Circle will account for, let's conservatively say, 10 billion of that. They will make $500 million a year more revenue, roughly, for having that. So as the pie expands, even if Circle goes from having 15% market share to 10% market share, and it loses a third of its market share, if that market has gone from 400 billion to 4 trillion, then they are an awful lot bigger than they are today. So what I think has happened with the share price is I think people have gone, what's Circle going to be worth in a couple of years' time? We're going to get in now and we're going to hold it for the next 5 years. That's what I think's happened. Now, that headline is trash. Jai, trash. Okay? The price is $181. It launched at $30. It's up 6x in a week. It was up 10x in a week, yes, but it's still up 6x. So am I expecting the price to come down a little bit more? Yeah, I am. I think it'll come down a little bit further. I'm still not buying Circle anywhere near this price. But when you see idiots, let's call him that, when you see idiots that start paragraphs with that, with those 4 words, then you know that everything in this article is trash. Circle is not down bad at all, Jai. In fact, it's up a 6x. It's up 600% since it's launched, you fool. Okay. Again, I know it's clickbait. I just get sick of it sometimes. Circle, Tether, probably USD1, which is launched by World Liberty Financial. These types of coins. When you start to get to a $1 billion, $2 billion TVL, you start to make decent money. You're talking about $10 million a month, $20 million a month in income from having the stablecoin, and then you can do a lot with that money. When you get a little bit higher, you start getting towards 10 billion. You're looking at about 400 to 500 million dollars a year in revenue. So these are decent sized companies, and they're only going to get bigger. We talk about the real world asset market expanding. Maybe it expands another 10, 20x. Stable coins are the backbone of crypto, not Bitcoin. Stable coins are. People want to exit, take liquidity out of the market. They normally use Tether or Circle. So $181 is still too high for me, but it wouldn't surprise me to see Circle at $500 in the future. Again, the other one to take into account is Coin. Coin is only now back at its launch price, and that's after going through an almighty dip, but it's now back at its launch price. Circle is a 6x away from where it launched at. I do expect it to come down a little bit more, maybe next year, maybe in the bear market. If we ever see a really decent bear market next year, maybe then we'll be able to get in on Circle. This isn't something that I need to get in today or tomorrow with. This is something I'm keeping an eye on. And I think the stablecoin market, it took me a while to understand why the American politicians were really keen on stablecoins. And it's simply to create the dollar as keep the dollar as the global reserve currency. There is not a stablecoin in the world that comes close to Tether or Circle or USD1 or any other of them. So what that means is that Web3 is based on dollars. And that's great for Trump, because what backs a stablecoin is real world US treasuries. So should he care about the debt? Absolutely not. Of course he shouldn't. He just wants to pump crypto because that enforces the dollar as the global reserve asset. That's the way I see it. But it took me a while to get to that stage because I still couldn't see the value behind why they were promoting it. Anyway, let's move on very quickly. We have 2 minutes left to go through this. These are 3 meme coins to watch in July. Nothing's going up until Bitcoin dominance comes down. So these are coins to look at to accumulate for potentially a November run-up. Okay, bear that in mind. These are not get-rich-quick schemes. We're always going to tell you to buy Mu, okay, because we have real faith and conviction in Mu. Bottom right-hand corner there, we have our 3 logos now. We added the WolfSwap one, we've got Mu, and we've got Maple Finance, just so you all know who we are sponsored by. Now, these 3 coins are Useless, Pengu, and Pepe. Now, I believe Pengu is one of those coins which is really going to do well. They're everywhere. They were at the opening bell last week in New York. Pepe is an OG, and Useless is fairly new to the scene. I think Useless was listed on Binance, wasn't it? Last week or the week before. So again, I included this because I don't mind the 3 tokens. Normally, I ignore them because it's like crap coin 1, crap coin 2, crap coin 3. But you know what? I thought these are decent. And again, I'm trying to do things that aren't involved with Bitcoin. So Useless is a meme coin. It's gone up 1,600%, which normally means you don't go anywhere near it. It's going to come straight back down again. It's showing signs of exhaustion. No signs, of exhaustion. It's a Solana meme coin. People are saying it's going to go to 45 cents. Of the 3 coins, this is the one I wouldn't touch. I wouldn't touch Useless. If I had $100, I wouldn't go near Useless. And if I did, it would be a very, very short-term reason. So if we see a huge market correction, if Bitcoin does go down to 103, 102, even 98,000, and this falls off the edge of a cliff, that would be the time I would buy it. Okay? That's what I would say on that one. Pudgy Penguins, they have RL, Real World. Okay, they have a brand, they have IP, and I held Pengu for so long, and I sold it for Com. I bought Com with it because I think Com's a really good long-term play. We're not going to talk about that on here. It's a micro cap, but I think it's going to do really, really well. Now, Pengu, I would ignore any correlation with Bitcoin. That's clutching at straws. I would look at the fact that Pengu has been on a really good price recovery, and it's got loads of things planned. I think it's got comics or a book planned. It's got TV series planned. A little bit like Mew in that respect. Mew is building a TV series, cartoon series. It's going to be absolutely massive in Asia. The majority of people watching this, we're in the Western world, Western Hemisphere, apart from the odd lunatic that lives in the wrong part of the world, like Australia or New Zealand. But we can forgive them because they're upside down. But Pudgy Penguins and Mew and those, they're going to be big in Asia, and that's going to drive their demand in the bull run. When retail, fingers crossed, comes back, it's going to drive them up. So Pudgy, I'd probably put $30 into Pudgy, and Pepe, that's where I would put the majority of my meme bag. If I didn't have a meme bag, I'd be looking at this. It's been on the slide for a while, so I would look at Pepe. And if this is not the Pepe that I'm thinking of, have a look at the Pepe that's in the top charts. But that would be it. That would be what I would look at. Certainly look at Pengu. Certainly look at Pepe. Maybe give Useless a miss. That's what I would certainly say. You're right, Tariq. I didn't. I have it. I got it for you. But I didn't put it in Telegram. So I have it for you. There is a place that allows you to stake your Mew. And it's a small place that's kind of like a promotional site, which I'm going to dig out for you. After this stream now, I'm going to send it into Telegram. I've got it in the notepad from the stream you asked me for it. I don't know if that was a week ago. So I'll find it. I'll type in Mew and I'll have a look for it. But anyway, that is the end of the stream. Thank you everybody for coming. 12:03. I am not streaming tomorrow morning because tomorrow night we have the Corgi AI Social Club quiz, where we're going to be asking you questions about Corgi AI. If you don't know about Corgi AI, you need to go and do some research, because this is going to be a tricky quiz. Okay? Now, as you're all here, I'm going to give you a quiz question. And I did say we would do this. Okay? We did say we would do this on the last stream. If you watch us, you're going to get clues. Okay? So I'm going to pick a question at random, and I'm going to give you the answer to it. Let me find a question that's actually a difficult one. Here we go. Okay. What is... Do you want... I'll give you a medium question. Okay. What did Corgi AI give away in April 2025? Did they give away Fractured Fate Land, Corgi NFTs, or was it a Corgi token airdrop? That's the question you're going to be asked tomorrow night. And the answer is Fractured Fate Land. There you go. There you go. So, Tariq, Manjeet, KB, Danny, Simon, whoever else is here and watching, you've been given one of the more... that was a medium question. You were given an answer to one of the questions. Okay? Don't say I don't give you anything. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow night. I'm going to try and make some videos tomorrow. And try and catch up. Yeah, you've marked that one down. Can anybody tell me what these XP things are? So I don't know what they are. KB, Simon, Mags, Danny. I don't know what they are. Top fans. What does this even mean? There's it. Oh, so we create a leaderboard. You get XP from sending live chat messages. Okay, so there you go. Now, the question is, why is poor old Tariq? It's leaderboard for chat. That's fantastic. Well, I hope some of you win. You know what we'll do? We'll have a look at this leaderboard thing and we'll work out how it works. Okay, and if it stacks and resets on a monthly basis, we will do a prize for the top 3 on the leaderboard at the end of every month. That's what we'll do. We'll do If it resets every stream, that's an absolute pain in the nuts, isn't it? Oh well, if it resets every stream, maybe we'll go and have a look at it at the back end, see if there's a way where we can reset it every month or something like that. But I like the idea of it. Anyway, 12:06. Best to let you go. Have a great Tuesday. See you all tomorrow. Not expecting anything today unless Powell comes out. And Tariq doesn't have one. I don't know why, Tariq. I think it's because you're special. I think it's because you're special you didn't get one. That's what I would say anyway. Anyway, have a great evening. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow night with the Oracle for the quiz. Ciao.